I'm John Bell Crosby, Supervisor District 1, where Lost Rabbit happens to be. And I recognize some faces, all faces I don't. Some of you I know as constituents, and I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate representing you. I'm not going to take a whole heck of a lot of time. I wasn't really originally part of, I guess you can say, starting it off, but I asked them if I could make about 4 or 5 points, then turn it over to them. We do ask that in order to expedite it, within reason, not that we're trying to get out of here, we'll stay here as long as you want to, but in order to expedite everything, wait to the end until they say, ask for questions. So the only, points that I would like to bring up is, as I think about it and as time has gone on, and I'm going to be honest with you, we're ready for this to come out too. So, there's not been any secrets. It's not like we're trying to keep a secret. So we're kind of glad to, see all this go. But I'm only going to say about 4 points. This report is just that. It's a report. This is not the gospel. This is not what we are even necessarily presenting. This is a report that was a result of our first trip to Chicago with Allstate. They asked for us to put together a report that kind of explained, kind of gave us viability to actually what I've always considered the star of it is we call it the Urban Renewal District, to explain the Urban Renewal District, how it will work and how it will fund itself, and in the long run make Lost Rabbit a viable part of not only the county of Madison, but the state of Mississippi. But it's a report. I don't want to say that when it's all said and done that, we're through, but in a sense we're kind of through because it is. It's a report. There are some things in there, the big word, the A word, the apartment word. I want to start off with that and share that, and I'm going to give that to as an example. Again, it's a report. It was done by third party. We did not put anything in it. We didn't tell them to put anything in it specifically, nor did we ask them to leave anything out specifically. We wanted, and Allstate wanted, an unbiased third-party report to see the viability of Lost Rabbit. This may not be a good example, but I'm going to give it anyway. That report could say you need an Eiffel Tower out there with overlooking the reservoir. Doesn't mean it's going to be out there. Doesn't mean it's going to be. Doesn't mean that we want them out there or want it out there. It's just in that report that came from the third party that we were asked to get to explain. So I'm trying to say it's just a report. The other part is that we are not going to write a check for $5 million. No new $5 million is coming in. That's kind of gotten out there and gotten in people. But all that's going to be explained, but I just want to share that with you and start the basis of it. And that $5 million, that's kind of since already there, and they're going to explain that, is going to be repaid back through Lost Rabbit, through the ERD. We're not going to be asking any cities to come up with any money, any more taxes from anybody, outside the Lost Rabbit development, which in the long run will pay for itself and become a vital part of not only Madison County, but it will help all the cities and all the local economy too, we feel. Once again, it's all speculative. And the main thing is it will not cost any cities any revenues. Now, that's all I'm going to say right now. I'm going to turn it over. And again, I want to thank you for being here, but I'm going to turn it over to our board attorney, Mike Esty. Thank you all.
Thank you, Supervisor Crosby, and I need the microphone. We have 2 supervisors here today, Gerald Steen and John Bell Crosby. But even though they're here, this is not a board meeting, okay? There'll be no votes taken today on this thing. But I do want to recognize the presence of 2 supervisors, as well as our county administrators here, our other board officials, comptroller, and other administrators of the Madison County. So this is not a board meeting. This is not a hearing. It has not been noticed other than informally. And you can ask questions. as many as you care to ask. But as John Bell Crosby said, we like to save the questions until the end of the session. So that way we can get through this in the most efficient way possible. All right. Today I asked the authority of the board, as council, to release the so-called Rogers report. So they agreed to that. So as of tomorrow, this report that we're going to be discussing today is able to be distributed under the Freedom of Information Act. All you have to do is write a letter or email to, excuse my voice, this is the best I can do today. Email the Chancellor Clerk of Madison County, and we will issue this report to you. There might be a charge. For the booklet form, it's going to be $25. It's what it costs us to produce it. It's got a lot of maps in it. And the electronic form might be cheaper. But it is voidable as of today. All right. Come on up, Steve. Yeah. I'm going to take you through the first couple points. What's the problem at Lost Rabbit? Why are we even getting involved in this at all? And I'm going to try to be very quick. And then I'm going to introduce Steve Rogers, who is the consultant for Madison County that we hired to assist the council in coming up with a solution at Lost Rabbit. And then we'll take your questions. This plan that we're going to take you through has not been voted on by the Board of Supervisors. There's been no votes yet. There will be, but not yet. Number two, Allstate Insurance Company has not yet signed any agreement. So it's preliminary. We know enough to know now that the agreement has been, in principle, agreed to, but nothing has been signed. And then lastly, and most importantly, no judge has reviewed this plan, and we do not have a judge's order, okay? So we've got to do those three things. But we have gone to Chicago twice. We reached a deal in principle, and we want to tell you what it is. What's the problem at Lost Rabbit? The main problem at Lost Rabbit is there's a non-functioning public improvement district, PID. There is a PID there, technically, but they have no members, because all the members of that PID reside. The PID under the law is a sovereign local government entity. It was created by the Madison County Board of Supervisors, but they reside. And the PID issued $18 million worth of debt in their own name to build out the infrastructure at Lost Rabbit. The roads, the utilities, the gas, the electric were paid for from bonds purchased by Allstate and used to put the infrastructure at Allstate at Lost Rabbit, but were never repaid. It created, and after the Lost Rabbit board members resigned, and after the legal document which created assessments to repay the $18 million of bonds weren't repaid, we have confusion, patchwork quality, and a hodgepodge of issues out there. What do I mean by that? Along the line, the Board of Supervisors removed 142 lots from Lost Rabbit. The lots were used to pay the assessments, to be used to repay the bonds. And when the board, by board action, removed 142 lots, it sort of neutered the repayment ability for the PID to repay the bonds. But that was done. So what remained is some people who are paying the assessments, some people who are not paying the assessments, some people who won't pay the assessments, and some people who can't pay the assessment because they're too high. So they're not being repaid, and the bonds are not being repaid. And Allstate is the only purchaser of the bonds. It generated multiple lawsuits. The main lawsuit is called Robeson, and there are a couple other plaintiffs versus Allstate versus Madison County versus Pearl River Valley versus, a bunch of defendants. And we are in that lawsuit. It's a lawsuit right now in Madison County Circuit Court. There's another lawsuit, Allstate versus Butler Snow. It was filed in Federal District Court in Illinois. That lawsuit was dismissed and removed and joined to the Circuit Court lawsuit across the street in Madison County. There's Allstate versus Butler Snow. Because Butler Snow and Becker Donaldson gave the bond opinion that gave Allstate that they relied on to purchase the debt issued by the Lost Rabbit bid. And then there's another lawsuit, Metropolitan Bank versus Allstate, where there's about $2 million of reserve funds that Allstate seized and didn't pay the contractors who helped to build out Allstate. Because there was a hodgepodge of confusion, they froze up the money, never paid the contractors. And that's another lawsuit. Allstate won the lawsuit, and that lawsuit is now on appeal to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. Madison County is only in one lawsuit. So you got confusion, you got bonds unpaid, you got a non-functioning bid, you got lawsuits, so that created stigma, which meant that nobody is buying lots, developers not progressing, everything is stagnant. And that's the problem at Lost Rabbit. Go to the next one. Why are we even getting involved at all? Why is Madison County in it at all? That's a good question. We have no choice. Section 193143A, subsection III. If the district, meaning PID district, becomes inactive, the county or municipality that created the district shall be informed and shall take appropriate action. That's the law, that's the PID amendment law that we're operating under. So Lost Rabbit the PID is non-functional. It exists on paper, but all the members are resigned. The assessments must be collected by somebody, and they're being collected by Madison County. They're being paid by Madison County. And we have stepped into the shoes of the PID because we have to. And that does not mean that the $18 million bond is our bond. It's not our bond. We don't want it to be. It means that under the law, we're supposed to take appropriate action. Well, what does that mean? Does it mean we have to take the bond? No. It doesn't mean we can do nothing. No. It's somewhere in the middle. And so we have a responsibility to do something. We're in a lawsuit where we are defending. And the issue of the lawsuit for us was the PID correctly formed? Why did y'all take out those 142 lots, which made the PID therefore unable to pay the assessments to repay bonds? That's a big issue in this lawsuit. I'm not going to stand here and argue today because I shouldn't. It's in the lawsuit. And lastly, there's an obligation of leadership. Now I'm speaking for myself, all right? The board didn't ask me to say this. We got 5 elected officials running this county. And no one district is more important than any other district. But there's an obligation of leadership. You cannot stand there, seeing a problem, continue to fester and do nothing. So the issue for us, council for the county, the consultant we hired, and the board when they vote on it, is what is the appropriate program to offer leadership that'll be deemed in the best interest of the county, respected Lost Rabbit. And we think it is. Forming an urban renewal district, to issue minimal debt, to take care care of the situation that'll have a market return to the county in the long run. And that's what we propose. It's been agreed to by Allstate in principle, and the details are now being worked out. So with that, I want to introduce Steve Rogers of Rogers and Associates. He is a consultant that the county for the board hired to assist the council in negotiating a settlement of litigation at Lost Rabbit and putting forward a deal that would serve the interests of all the parties. Mr. Rogers is head of Rogers and Associates, but he was before president and CEO of Parkway Properties. Very well known with a great reputation in real estate and bond management. So with that, I turn it over to Steve Rogers.
Thank you, Mike. I'll try without the microphone here, but if anybody in the back can't hear me, please let me know. Madison County Board of Supervisors hired my firm to really come up with an economic solution that could hopefully convince all the constituents, and there's many here, to some kind of global settlement that would be acceptable to all parties. Well, you can imagine that's a little bit like herding cats, but you got to start one at a time. And so the process has now come around to where we find ourselves in front of many of those constituents today. We've been in front of Allstate. I think it's been a successful meeting. They were the first constituent because they simply had the debt. If Allstate would have said, no, we're not going to play ball, we wouldn't be having a meeting today. I hope everybody understands that. Therefore, we went to Allstate first. I believe we got the yes there, subject to working out the details. The reason we went there first is because no matter who you talk to, whether it's the folks in the audience that live there, the brokers who work the project, the original developers, the attorneys, or anyone, they'll all tell you the same thing. I've interviewed nearly everyone that's ever had a hand in this project, and they said, you got to get rid of the PID. The PID has imposed an undue burden on the constituents at Lost Rabbit. Some of the lots out there have a $6,600 a year PID assessment. I don't know if you're aware of that. $6,600 in 10 years, that means you pay $66,000 for the privilege of owning a lot in this nice neighborhood. That is untenable, and I hope we can all agree to that. Without getting rid of the PID, which Allstate holds the key to, we don't have a meeting today. We believe we've done that. The way to do it is to create an urban renewal district that Mr. Espy came up with and the board of Madison, very proactive solution, and to create a new bond that we're going to go through with you in a moment. It's $5.2 million. Now, when you think about $5.2 million, John Bell said it and Mike said it. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it 10 times before the day's over. At the closing table, if it happens, nobody gets $5.2 million. There is no money going as a result of a closing to Allstate. All they're doing is exchanging an $18 million bond receivable for a $5 million bond receivable. That's it. Now, the way that bond gets paid back is through some diversion of taxes, which is real money, and through the creation of the urban renewal district. The repayment of the bond appears viable. The other finding that we came up with is after looking very carefully at the original plan, what we call the DPC plan, which was the traditional neighborhood development, it is our recommendation that we generally support that plan. There's some modifications to it, but after talking to all the homeowners, many of whom are sitting right here today, I think every one of them would agree that some modifications are in order to make sure that the plan works. There's not a lot of demand for commercial office space in the town center today. Stacy will tell you that. He lives there. He looks out his window on it every single day. John Laws has got a place there. David has a place there. There's not a lot of demand. Hopefully it'll come. All we did is rearrange a little of that space and allocate it to single-family development. Single-family development, 24 to 2,800 square foot nice homes. We took out the tennis courts. And when I say took them out, we just in plan said we probably just don't have demand for this many tennis courts. You need a clubhouse, you need amenities, but we don't need 12 tennis courts today, do we? So that has been removed in the plan just so that we can have a product type at Lost Rabbit rather than one unique product, okay? And there's really been nothing else added to the DPC plan, although there's been much discussion to the contrary, because the original DPC plan, as you'll see in about 10 slides from now, is intact. And then finally, Lost Rabbit needs a leader. Every development that I've ever been involved with in 32 years of working in the real estate world had a developer on it to make it work, right? You got a leader. And we don't have a leader today. Right or wrong, the original developers who put this together, conceived the plan, just are not here today. I know them both well, so I'm not embarrassed to talk about it, because I've talked to both of them and they're very good friends of mine. Nevertheless, they are no longer involved legally or economically in Lost Rabbit. And no one else has stood up and said, we need to take charge of this situation and make it better. There's been a lot of talk, right? And there's been a lot of meetings, but nobody until Madison County stood up and said, we will offer a plan. Has anybody said anything? At least not that I've heard. If you know of something, lay it on us today. It's a darn good time to clear the air. The leader right now, de facto, is Madison County. And until the land is sold to a developer, or until the option property at Pearl River allows to go to Mr. Lovelace, who has a legal option to develop it, until all of that can be done, then in effect, there is no leader and there is no plan. And absent leadership and absent a plan, you're going to get a lot more of what we've gotten in the last 5 years, which is nothing. Most things hinge on the numbers. So instead of wasting a lot of time before we get to the numbers, let's go right to it. The top number up there is the urban renewal bond. Mike keeps rounding to $5 million, and I'm going to tell you in the plan is $5,235,000. If we use the term $5 million, it's interchangeable with 5235, because that's the exact amount of money that it took to kind of make the math work here, which I'll show you in a moment, for Allstate to be willing to take a write-down from 18 million to 5.2. I had to prove mathematically to them that the 5.2 was supportable from the revenues that would be created. It will show you momentarily. This term NPV means net present value. It's just a financial term. It's the way we helped convince Allstate that this would work, convince them in a positive sense of the word, mathematically and economically. And the NPV of all of the cash flows from this project that we'll show you turned out to be about $5.2 million. And that's where the bond number came from. It was mathematical and based on the market, what the absorption of lots could be. If a lot sells, it goes into paying ad valorem taxes, where right now no ad valorem taxes are being paid, except for some forest land ad valorem taxes. Once a lot moves into, a piece of land moves into a lot status, then it's more valuable. And once it's more valuable, it pays more ad valorem taxes, and more ad valorem taxes pays the bond. Okay? The ad valorem taxes that we're talking about is 17.19 mils. That would be what the county, Madison County, would divert or allow that normally comes into the general fund and is currently being paid at Lost Rabbit today. The amount is $86,000 today, would go toward repaying the bond. Okay? And then incremental ad valorem taxes from the 17.19 mils that are created from new development would go toward paying the bond. But keep in mind that Lost Rabbit homeowners and lot owners are paying 92 mils today. 92 is 4.4 times as big as 17. So every new dollar of ad valorem taxes that's paid by the county to cover the bonds up there, $4.4 comes into Madison County in the form of schools, Madison County schools, fire protection, road maintenance, the library system, and many other beneficial places where tax dollars can come into if this plan is approved, versus it won't come in, at least on Lost Rabbit, if it's not approved. The other economic element is the substitution of what we're calling a renewal fee. The renewal fee will be 1% of the lot value for future lots that are created out there. You'll see a slide in a minute that we figure the average lot value for the new lots is around $65,000. Therefore, the new lot value is $650 of renewal fee payment. Compare and contrast that to the number I gave you a moment ago, the PID. Some of the lot pro forma in the PID were $6,600. This is 1/10 as big as what the current PID is requiring for the lot owners to pay. It doesn't mean that the lots have been devalued. It just means that in the market assessment for the size homes that are in the $400,000 range, that's what the implied lot value of a $400,000 home is today in Madison County, and therefore we just made an assumption that 1% of that will be paid in the form of a renewal fee. We could have called it a PID fee, but you would have all voted against that very quickly. So the word PID is removed from the equation, and we just created a new moniker, renewal fee, and that's what it'll be called. Okay? Those two cash flows, the sum of ad valorem taxes and the sum of the renewal fees paid by the landowners, is what pays back the bond. Now you may ask, if I'm an existing owner and I'm already exempt from the PID, what happens to me? I already own a house out there. No one can require by law a current owner to pay something on themselves, so you get a free ride if you want it. What we're going to recommend to all the owners and homeowners is that you self-impose a 1% fee on yourself. In exchange for that, you'll see many other benefits here that I believe will inure to your benefit, and just let us finish the presentation and you can see. The sweet spot for homes in Madison County market for neighborhoods that are close in quality to Lost Rabbit today is about $400,000. It's actually $350,000 to $420,000. That implies a lot value at about a 16% ratio of about $55,000 to $60,000 per lot if you built that size home. Recall in the original DPZ plan, there were 10 product types, everything from mansions that are greater than $1 million, all the way down to what Duane called row houses and carriage homes that were much, much smaller in size. But average is what we're talking. There may be some $800,000 homes in the plan, there may be some 290s, but the average, the sweet spot, 63% of the homes that are shown in the marketplace today are in this price range right here. And then the average price per acre for raw land, which really doesn't affect the homeowners, but does affect Allstate, and that's why it's in the presentation, is about $20,000. So what's the proposal? Mike has already mentioned many of this, so I'll go through this rather quickly, is there's an exchange of the Allstate bond for a new renewal bond, for round numbers, $5.2 million. We left the interest rate the exact same as the original PID bond to make it easy for Allstate to understand. And we left the amortization schedule, how fast you pay it off, at 20 years, which is the same as the original plan. So no change there. The current PID assessment would stop immediately. Madison County would get rid of all the lawsuits, would stop. Madison would pledge general fund only in the amount of 17 mills from current and future development to pay back the bonds. And then Madison County, through the tax collector's office, would collect the 1% lot fee from future platted lots and would remit that to the bond to pay the bond back also. Okay? So that's really the proposal. There's some smaller things that go into it. They're important, and we'll cover them. So you might kind of dealt with the legal issues and the moral issues of why you do something. That was really not my assignment. Mine was to deal with the economics of why you do something. So the first benefit that Madison County gets is when development rejuvenates out there and starts again, and homes start getting built again, and lots start getting produced on the face of the earth again after a 5-year hiatus, then Madison gets $4.40 for every dollar it applies to the bond. And if you work through the mathematics and the 20-year cash flow statement that I'll show you in a moment, the answer at the end of the 20 years, if you sum up all the payments that go into Madison County, is $22 million. So economically, you can do nothing, and you may get a few bucks out there over time, or you can go along with a plan that brings all the constituents together into a whole solution, and Madison County stands to benefit of greater than $20 million over a 20-year period. And again, to refresh your math on that, only 17 mills are going for the bond, 92 mills in total, 75 mills goes to the county, okay, from creation of new development. Then another benefit that Madison County gets is at the end of the 20-year period, the 17 mills comes back to the county, right? Because the bond's amortized. And once it's amortized, it doesn't exist any longer. And once it doesn't exist any longer, the county doesn't have to divert that 17 mills any longer. And the math on that, on the 21st year in the model, is about $500,000. So that'll come back to the county. Of course, you settle the litigation and rejuvenate the development, are also very important benefits. This slide just simply illustrates, for those of you that are not as familiar with, many of you in the room are very familiar with Madison County taxes, but a tax levy kind of divides into a lot of different mills. And here's your code. The one we're talking about here, the 17.19, is the general fund. And that's what the county has the authority legally to pledge for this bond. The county can't give more than 17.19 million if they wanted to, so they're not. Okay? All of these other mills that go to the library and solid waste, fire protection, development, road, bridges, all of that is not being diverted. In fact, if you look at the longer list, and here's the actual order signed by Arthur Johnson recently when the new fiscal year was established, there's the 17, there's the 38, and then also you get the Madison County Schools of 54, and that's what builds up to the 92 mills that you've heard me mention several times. 92 mills, only 17. We also have the benefits to the Pearl River Valley Water Supply District here because they are also a constituent here. Most of you that live in Lost Rabbit know this, but if you don't, Lost Rabbit owners don't own the land. They have a leasehold interest. The owner of the land is Pearl River Water Valley Supply District as the agent for the state of Mississippi who actually owns the land. So Pearl River has the authority to approve plan changes. Any plan change that is proposed by anyone, a developer coming in and doing anything to the master plan, has to go through the PRV. That's just the deal. So nothing in our report, even a suggestion of how to make something work economically, could even be acted on without the PRV voting on it. So they're a constituent to this. Why would they go along with it? Well, they're obviously interested in shoreline development, and they're interested in their lease payments going up. Right now, there's no lots being created on the face of the earth, okay, and no prospects for them to be while the PID's outstanding. Our proposal shows 500 lots being created on the face of the earth. That's what the original plan called for. We haven't made higher density on the plan. You'll take the original DPZ plan, I've got a copy of it here, and count up every little rectangle on it. You'll come up to that number. Those on average pay $900 a year. That's about what you pay out there. There's a three-tiered system, but 900 is the average. And if you have 500 new lots multiplied by $900, that's a lot of fresh money coming to the district. Okay? Very important to PRV to see this development rejuvenate. How about the homeowners? We have many in the audience today. You know, what does a homeowner kind of gain from this? Well, the first thing I believe that a homeowner gains is just it resolves the cloud over your neighborhood. Lost Rabbit is beautiful. Lost Rabbit deserves better than what's been bestowed upon it through the legal structure that the world has on Lost Rabbit today. It's not going to get resolved unless there's some proactivity here. It won't get better with the passage of time. There has to be action in order to create resolution. Inaction is going to leave you exactly where you are today, which is nowhere out there. And I think most of the neighbors with whom I've had conversations are ready for some proactive solution here that is beneficial. If action starts, then demand is created. Once demand is created, demand creates value. The more people that want to buy a lot out there, the more people that want to buy a home out there, then home values go up. Home values only go down when there's lack or zero demand. It's just basic economic principles I don't think anybody in this room would disagree with. There's an opportunity in this plan for the homeowners to create a clubhouse, the tennis court, the pool system from their own account, and through some of the excess reserve funds that appear to be viable in this bond, is to actually receive a good portion of that money back from the bond. I think it's between $1 million and $1.5 million over a long period of time would be remitted back to the homeowners association under the construct that we have here. In effect, assisting you with putting the amenity package on the face of the earth. None of that money would be diverted from Madison. That money would simply come from the 1% fee that hopefully you self-impose upon yourself and consider. And that's the point that I'm making here. And of course, Madison County maintains your roads out there today. So Pearl River owns the land, Madison maintains the road. I think we covered that. Only Pearl River can really make changes at Lost Rabbit. If there's modifications to the plan, they won't come from me, they won't come from the Board of Supervisors, and they won't come from Mike Espy or anybody sitting in this room. They will only come from Pearl River Water Valley Supply District. Okay? That's the deal. Nobody can go make a deal with Allstate from anything out there that doesn't go through PRB, period. The homeowners build a clubhouse, the property owners pay the 1% renewal fee based on lot value. Madison County administers the whole matter, and then the negative pledge is dropped from the Loveless option property. Most of you probably don't realize, but there is a Lost Rabbit south. It's right south of the current development. It's 138 acres of woods that are immediately south of your homes. That's under option legally to Terry Loveless from PRB. It has been for some time. But Allstate has a negative pledge on it by virtue of their PID. As long as the PID's in place, the negative pledge is in place and doesn't allow Mr. Loveless any development activity. So the only way to jumpstart development on Lost Rabbit South is to allow the negative pledge to disappear, and the only way to do that is for some kind of arrangement to be reached that's global and settling, and that's part of the proposal here. Therefore, if everyone kind of goes along with this proposal, then the negative pledge is lifted on Lost Rabbit South, and whoever has the legal option down there, which today is Mr. Terry Loveless, has the legal right to build homes down there, subject to approval by Pearl River. Okay? I know that's a lot of information there, but it's important that you get a lot of information because I think facts will actually help carry this decision in the right direction. One of the hardest things for us to determine, in like any model, you have to determine how much you can sell. It's like a pro forma, like a budget. It's like looking into the future. And our job, our team, who was a good team of associates that we have at Rogers & Associates, Edwin Salas here today, Urban Insights in Memphis, and others, looked at this issue of how many lots do we think we can sell per month. My original proposal to Madison County was that this be a 10-year pro forma. But once we went through and determined that we believe about 2 lots per month is what's going to sell out there going forward based on the market, that's 24 a year, we had to make it a 20-year pro forma. Because in order to make this, the sellout complete, it couldn't be done in 10 years. So we had to push that time frame out further to allow 24 times 20 is 480, which gets you close to the maximum amount of lots that were originally contemplated to be built out here. No more, no less. Just reconfigured some of them. There's less commercial, there's less tennis courts, there's more single family. Okay? So 2 lots was the answer. Right now it's 0. So 2 is a lot more than 0. And in the heyday, in 06, it was 4. 4 probably seems too high. But it was a judgment call. We came up with 2. So that's an important assumption. Look, I could be dead wrong. It could be 1.5 or 2.5. It's probably not 5 and it's not 0. So we're just not going to be real far off on this if we go with 2. Okay? The next thing we had to determine is what is the value or sweet spot for a typical home. And there we go to all the neighborhoods in Madison County and we look around and see what's selling. It's not what you might want to build yourself. It's not what your neighbor may have. What it is what's selling in other nice neighborhoods in Madison, such as Reunion and comparably good neighborhoods. Reunion is a good example because it has a kid. And so it's a great comparable. And so people will only pay what the market will call for. And the number that we kind of came up with after interviewing a lot of people, looking at the MLS, going through appraisal techniques, talking to guys like Mark Warren here, was $350,000 to $420,000. About $140 a foot, which implies a home of 2,400 to 2,800 square feet. There are no 1,000 square foot homes here. These are good-sized homes of high quality, the sweet spot. All this is simply a recommendation by us to Allstate. They don't approve it or build the homes. They just have to believe that it's market-driven so they can believe that the bond will be paid back. Because if you come up with unrealistic assumptions, if we just said the market is $2 million homes and said we'll sell 5 a month, well, they're just going to blow you off and say, that'll never happen. And so we don't want to do that. You want what's believable in the marketplace, and this is what we believe is supportable in the market. I did some analysis on land comps, but that doesn't affect y'all as much. I'm going to skip over that. I kind of throw the original DPZ plan up here because I think it helps lead into the next couple of final charts. This is where Stacy's building is right now, the Pinnacle. This is the marina. This is in effect the town center. And then this is Lost Rabbit South here. The current development, as you know, comes in the main boulevard and looks out over the reservoir there with homes here, down here on the water where John Laws lives, up here, and then runs down to about here and cuts back. This is platted with Madison County. Nothing else on that plan is platted with Madison County. Okay? It has been, quote, approved by Pearl River Water Valley Supply District, but has not been platted by Madison County. Okay? The home types that are all in this 1A and 1B component of the original plan are all single-family homes. Here's a blow-up of that plan, the original DPZ plan. I just lifted this right out of the 107-page plan book, just to kind of show you the detail that the original plan book had. Now again, I didn't create this page. I just want to make sure everybody, this came right out of the original plan book. And if you'll notice on the plan, it's got the marina, and here's Stacy's building right over here. Here's John's business right here, and so forth. And then these buildings were all designed to be multifamily, whether it be condo or apartment. I know that's a bad word, but that's in the original plan. We have not added, subtracted, or changed the original plan. Now, whether those are built or not built is totally up to others. The people that approve something like that would be someone who have to come in and say, what is the most economical thing to build to make the most money? Right now, that's a single-family home for $350,000, $450,000. And then what can get approved by the Pearl River Water Valley Supply District, which currently, is my understanding, there's a moratorium on multifamily. Right? So that's that. It's just in the original plan, and we didn't change it. In fact, here's the plan that we're calling the conceptual land use plan that our designer, consultant, planner, Steve Steinbach in Memphis, has done a lot of these in the Memphis area, and I've got a lot of confidence in Steve. I wish he were here today. This is the existing Lost Rabbit aerial. This is all the homes that currently exist in the area. The main road coming in, okay, and then here's the marina and town center. This yellow part is the Terry Lovelace option property. Again, Mr. Lovelace has a legal right to go do this plan today. It's been pre-approved, but no place on that plan that I could find, and I would love for you to come up and help me find it, do I find the word apartment or multifamily. I can't find it. Okay, those are all single-family homes. All of these development in here are the same product types. Here's the legend that we took straight off the original DPZ plan. If you remember my opening slide, I said I've maintained since the first time I pitched this to anybody, is we generally need to follow the DPZ plan with certain modifications to recognize that commercial just isn't happening out there today. Office space is slow in Jackson in general today, and it's just not much demand for office space at the marina today. So if you want to force that into the plan, it's just going to force a part of that to be uneconomic. So instead, that was reallocated to show single family, which are these buildings here. That's what the legend shows. If you want to come up after the meeting, I'll be happy to go through that with you. And then what that results in is the financials, and this is next to the last slide. The financials show, and I know it's very small print, I'm going to blow it up for you in a minute, just show the viability that if you take the 17 mills, remember that, the diversion of mills, and you take the 1% fee, and you allow 2 lots per month to be sold over a very long period of time, that starts building up a value And that built-up value results in the ability to pay back that $5.2 million bond, fully amortizes over a 20-year period. The principal and interest is $530,000 a year, and the revenue sources are very visible here. You can see them. They're real. It starts at the $86,000 that's there today, and every lot that gets placed on the face of the earth adds more to that until such time as the bond pays for itself. And that's what we showed Allstate. And Allstate said, it looks great. Somebody did the homework we were hoping they'd do, and that's the county did that. I'm going to blow it up just to show you the first few years. And again, here's, there's the millage rate there, there's the 1%. All of it's shown here, and it builds up over to the P&I payment I mentioned to you. We originally had Allstate land sales in the plan, but for a lot of reasons that came out. I'll cover that if you want to later. There's the $86,000, hopefully you can see that. That's currently coming in through the 17 mills, and it grows to 148, 167, 185, 201, and 219. Again, based solely on 2 lots per month, every month, building up over a very long period of time. And then there's the urban renewal fees that build up to a sum of $330,000, and that's from the Loveless option being done, Allstate selling their land to a developer. I don't know who it'll be, maybe somebody in this room will buy it. And that developer will then in turn plat that acreage and move it out of acreage into platted, and at that point it becomes eligible for the 1% renewal fee, and that's what pays back the bond. This is the schedule of principal and interest payment. It shows the reserve. It shows the Lost Rabbit Property Owners Association reserve fund balance. And I realize it's a long way off in the future, folks, but in the year 2023, about $3,000 gets deposited into the reserve account. And it builds up from there every year until 2034, and actually builds up to a pretty substantial amount of money that will allow the homeowners to recoup some of their investment in making this whole thing work. I guess kind of in summary, the way I would probably say it is not everybody gets what they want. Nobody, not one constituent gets what they want either. But everybody collectively gets better than what they got today. Okay? And that's probably the definition of a good business deal. Because you got 6 constituents here, and I know if we put a wish list on all of them, you'd say, I want this, 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 and this, and no change. And that's not going to happen. What will happen, though, is that everybody will get pretty close to the wish list. If everybody will allow the other parties to get pretty close to the wish list, then the collective wish list that's shown here actually gets done. And Lost Rabbit turns back to what it was supposed to be, which is, and it is a great neighborhood. It's just got some structural challenges today that simply need to be overcome. Well, that's the formal presentation. I appreciate you listening to us for so long. I know that's a long presentation, but we're here to answer questions for you.
Before we answer questions, I want to make sure that we say something that I don't believe we see it in this precinct, the bond itself. There is no full faith and credit guaranteeing any payment from Madison County. The bond itself is an urban renewal bond sponsored by Madison County, but it will not enjoy any full faith and credit, meaning there's no liability or no guarantee from Madison County. There's no contribution agreement like the Parkway East bonds, where they have a PID and Madison County said to them, okay, you got a $33 million bond. If you have a shortfall, paying your principal and interest, we'll cover the shortfall. Does not exist here. Okay? There's no contribution agreement covering any shortfall. There's no full faith and credit. There's no liability. If the people at Lost Rabbit don't pay their ad valorem taxes, they will suffer the same consequences that anyone suffers if they don't pay their ad valorem taxes. But if they don't pay it, then it's not collected and it cannot be remitted or pledged to retire the bonds. And Allstate understands that. So that's the deal we reached. So to me, it starts with $87,000 annually, like a TIF. You guys know what a TIF is. A TIF really means anything incrementally any incremental increases, we'll pledge X% of the increase to retirement bond. So it's like a revenue bond TIF. It stimulates development in an area that has not been developed in quite a while at a minimal risk to Madison County. In addition to a 1% fee called a renewal fee from new people, those who are going to be in the Terry Lovelace option and those who will be in the Allstate Township area. Mandatory on them. Voluntary on the current homeowners. Now, why would you volunteer to pay a 1%? Well, I think you should. You see what everybody else is doing for you. You should. You don't have to. Nobody's going to send a sheriff after you. But you really should, because you live out there. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am, sure.
Could you go back to the slide that shows the diagram that was done of the neighborhood from the Memphis group and tell me something more about that, about the change that is done
Sure, this one right
at the
here?
bottom, which adds 11 homes to the end of my street and changes the street dramatically, adding homes in what was originally proposed as a park area?
This right here?
Yes.
Yeah. That's part of the Terry Lovelace option agreement. He has a legal option to do what he pleases down there.
Does he have the legal option to change my street, which is supposed to go up at the last lot on my street?
He has the right to do what he has done here on this
We
design.
will be putting our house up for sale if that
I'm sure Mr. Lovelace would like
happens.
to address
We will
that.
certainly take a big loss on it after all of this.
That legal right existed before any of this discussion
I'm
took
just
place.
saying. I appreciate your help.
So I think the candor that comes out from a session like this is sometimes important. All I'm saying is this is what he has a legal right to do today.
Where are the tennis courts on this plan right here?
There are none. They were right there.
Where are they now?
They are not there.
Okay, so we moved out there, bought a house because of the lifestyle. It's not there.
Yes, sir.
So why are you gonna build homes and not have a lifestyle for people to move out there?
That's a good question. What's being proposed here, if you saw the original part of the presentation, is a clubhouse, a pool, and tennis courts right in this area. But not as many tennis courts as was shown in the original plan. If you recall the original plan, there was over a dozen tennis courts there, and there's just not demand for that in the market out there today.
We like that, that's why we moved out there. Because of the tennis courts, we came from Atlanta, played a lot of tennis. Every subdivision in Atlanta built the pool, the clubhouse, the tennis courts, along with the house, the homes. That was the draw. You're just putting homes out there and, hey, come move. Where's the lifestyle? Then you want us to, hey, for the clubhouse, the pool, and tennis court.
That is the proposal, sir. Keep in mind that you're comparing it against something that existed at one point in time, which was someone did say that there would be a lot of tennis courts there. But if nothing is done here today, you've noticed there hasn't been a lot of building out there, and certainly no tennis courts have been built out there in the past 5 years. And if nothing is done, then the clubhouse, the tennis court, the pool, and all of the things that we're discussing here don't get done.
And that's why my house is on the market, because it's not the lifestyle
Yes, sir.
I thought we were gonna have.
So what I think the county is attempting to do here is to rejuvenate Lost Rabbit and put it back to as close to the original idea as possible. Because today, what we have to deal with is the stark reality that today, if you just do nothing, there's not going to be one tennis court put there in the neighborhood. That's just not
We'll
who's
let
going to
you
do
guys
it.
do that.
There is no
We'll go
developer.
and wait for that to happen.
Yes, sir, but there is no development. And no one is standing up saying, I'd like to go build 12 tennis courts that I can find. So all I'm really saying is that the concept here is to move it off of where it is today and move it forward substantially intact with the original plan, substantially, which means it generally follows the DPZ plan, that the Lovelace option, whether people like it or not, is a legal option that existed before this study was contemplated, before Madison County went up to see Allstate, and existed. It exists today because it's legal. I can't change that. We can't change that in this room. David?
Steve, this platted design up here was just done by the group out of Memphis, right? That is not Terry's platted design, correct?
This portion up here was done by the group from Memphis as an illustrated conceptual plan, meaning this is probably the best economic plan. Whoever actually buys the land from Allstate can come back in and say, I don't like this plan, I want to put 12 tennis courts there, or I want to put bigger houses there. That's really up to the developer. It's not up to me or the planner in Memphis. All we did is put forth a plan so that you could attach some numbers to it so that you could see if it's repayable, okay? And then the bottom portion of the plan, David, maybe to answer your question, the yellow, which we're referring to as Lost Rabbit South, is generally the Terry Lovelace plan. It's what Mr. Lovelace would like to do with his property, which is put 288 single-family homes over a long period of time on the face of the earth. He is the legal option holder of that land, and provided that he meets the obligations of that option, he has that right to that.
Does PRV have to approve his plan?
They do, yes. PRV has to approve anything that happens out here, but for the 2 platted pieces that Madison County's already platted. That which is platted is done. Those that are not platted is undone, has to go to PRV to get their approval. Again, I want to say it a lot of times today, because I think it's been a message that's gotten convoluted over the last couple of months, and that being, we have no authority to change anything that's already done out there. All that you can do is to put forth an idea that'll show how something that's not financially successful today can move forward and be financially successful, and therefore repay the bonds, therefore getting Allstate to get rid of the PID, dropping the $18 million bond down to $5 million, and allowing the negative pledge to fall off the option piece, allowing the county to get all the benefits that we discussed. John?
Given back the 2004, Madison County, City of Madison, who I represent, and PRB all entered into a written MOU specifically eliminating apartments from this development. Why on earth would the county or your group submit to the county, which would then submit a plan that does include apartments?
This is the plan. This is the 107-page book that you're referring to. It's called the pattern book. There's actually what DPC, Duane Platty, calls their pattern book for Lost Rabbit. And this was designed by the late Michael Barranco, along with DPZ, and submitted to Madison, the city, Pearl River Water Valley. The only authority that I know that's actually approved this, John, and if you tell me today there's something to the contrary, great, I believe you, is Pearl River. All of this is in the plan, okay? So because it's in the plan, and it's my thesis that the plan that exists needs to remain largely intact, I didn't recommend we change anything. Is that simple?
Plus, the land use plan, the maps and the diagrams are not a part of the litigation settlement agreement. The land use plan, the map, is not a part of the settlement agreement. Allstate doesn't care. I can't speak for Allstate, but I just tell you, they don't care what the land use plan has in it. They want to sell that property, and they want to get recoupment on their bonds. They don't care what Allstate looks like. Allstate, excuse me. They don't care what Lost Rabbit looks like. Now, don't quote me on that, please, guys. The Madison County Council, me, asked the Rogers and Associates Group, as a part of the due diligence under the confidential privilege, to create a model land use plan that would show the optimum economic viability of a subdivision that would exist to repay $5.2 million bond. That's what they did. Now, what it looks like is not going to be a part of the settlement agreement. And we spoke about this when I met with Mayor Mary. I told her what I'm telling you today. If anybody wants to buy the Allstate property, whatever developer, if that developer For instance, says they'll get more money out putting apartments out there. That's got nothing to do with the settlement agreement. That developer will have to go before the Pearl River Valley Water Supply District and say, I want to build apartments. And then that's where your fight could come. You're not going to have a fight with us because we have no authority at all.
Well, and I guess I come back to, yes, Mr. Jones was actually on the board of supervisors at that time. He voted to approve the agreement that precluded apartments. Why would they be put in the plan?
The apartments are not in the plan, sir.
Are you telling me the apartments are not in your?
That's correct. I mean, if you look here, what you see, I mean, here's the plan, and I call it the plan. This is the conceptual land use plan that we built the model around. Yeah, what it shows in this area in phase 1B is right there, that pink area. It says condos. These are like live work. It's what John Laws lives in right now. I mean, what his business is in. And it's called a live work. Some people refer to them as condominiums. Some people call them live work. But it's part of the DPZ original plan. I mean, that word right there is condo.
So in the plan that you provided, Mr. Espy, apartments, this is part of that plan?
This plan right here is what Mr. Espy has, what you're going to get a copy of today. It does not have apartments in this plan. I don't know how else to say it. It's just, that's what it is. If someone comes in 6 months from now and sells you on doing it, God bless you. But it's just not what we're proffering here. I put slide after slide in front of you to show you what is the sweet spot out here, which is single-family homes from $350,000 to $420,000. The next sweet spot of tranches of value is $420,000 to $500,000 in value, not going the other way. In fact, it's going up rather than down. And I think the items here on this little bitty sliver that's shown as condo there, that's probably maybe 3% of the total, meaning 97% is not that. That would have to still be approved by Pearl River Water Valley Supply, even that.
Steve, in your comments, this is, of course, a conceptual plan. And I just want to make one comment. Any developer that comes in and buys this, has still got to sell lots. If the amenities are not there to sell lots, then the developer's got to figure out how to put the amenities in to sell lots. I don't know too many developments this size that don't have some amenities put in by the developer. I mean, it's conceptual.
You know, we don't have a developer here today for this. I mean, so when I say we, Allstate, as the owner of this land via the tax sale, there is no developer. It was the 6th point on my original slide. There is no leader. There is no developer. So someone does have to come in. In the meantime, until a developer comes in, what we have suggested to make it easier on the homeowners and to make the homeowners see some benefit here is to suggest that you consider placing the homeowners association place some of this amenity package in as part of this overall settlement, and to provide for excess cash flow from this bond, which there will be, into a reserve fund, an escrow account, if you will. It's held that once the bonds are sort of paid back, then it would be remitted back to you. In effect, you'd be financed in that item. There is no developer today. Okay, therefore, there is no one to go do what you ask. And I wish some of the things were different in this regard, but we can only deal with what we have today. Stacy?
Steve and Mike, you said that the current homeowners, the county can't require that 1% renewal fee.
Right.
Which I support. Is there any way on a transfer, if a home or lot is sold, that new owner, that the county could require them to pay that fee?
I don't think so, but this sort of runs with the land, so it's.
We have to research that. I mean, I don't want to say yes or no on that, but that's not a part of the bond repayment charge. It's really increase funds. This is very conservative, very doable.
This number right here, Stacy, you see that right now it's only, it's $71,000 going to 221 as more developments placed on the face of the earth. That does not include $1 coming from a single homeowner or lot owner that's currently in the neighborhood today, because there's no legal right to impose that. What it does assume is that everyone else that would come in the future, the Lovelace option property, whoever buys the Allstate land around town center up north, would indeed pay that when they got platted. If people agree to contribute, you know, the right thing to do, so to speak, then there's extra cash flow to come in, repay bond faster, put money back into the homeowner's reserve fund for the repayment of the improvements that we're suggesting we make.
We don't want to create what you got already out there now, a hodgepodge of confusion. Some people pay an assessment, some people not. Some people in, some people out. Some people taken out mistakenly, creating lawsuits. We don't want to do that.
We have a question in the back. Yes, sir.
Steve, I've got the other building across the marina, Stacy in the town center. There was some original money for it allocated to develop the marina, and there were some things left out of that just because of the way the whole thing went down. And was there any discussion or money? I mean, there was already allocated money that was frozen. Is there any funds that will be released to help them just finish some stuff that is like drainage and basic necessities down there?
We did not contemplate anything being done on the marina. And the reason is because the marina comprises a small part of the economics of the overall development. And there are lawsuits between Metropolitan and Allstate. Allstate has taken title to the marina via tax sale, and Metropolitan has foreclosed post-tax sale. So the legal complexity is probably well beyond our ability in the scope of a short report to try to really come up with an answer for the marina. So at this moment in time, we're perfectly candid on your question. We left it out of the analysis.
Do you have any, in the consulting world, looking at this kind of stuff, suggestions on how we talk about this, or maybe you propose something, how to include that piece? I mean, that's
The
a
marina
big
should
investment on my
definitely be
part.
included as part of an omnibus settlement here. It just, we didn't have it within the scope of our work. I have a couple of ideas. I'd be delighted to chat with you after the meeting on those, but they're kind of subject to these legal matters being worked out, because nothing would really work until there's a clean title on the marina. Right now, there's a pretty big cloud on the title of the marina.
Questions?
I got one.
Yes, sir.
Does your plan contemplate that the PID goes completely away?
It does.
Okay, so for the several of us in the room that have paid the PID payments, did we get them back?
No, sir.
That's not gonna happen. The people that have been foreclosed, or their property is about to be foreclosed, will those payments be refunded to them, or will they be waived?
I can't answer that. It's not part of our assessment here. Usually when someone transfers title via foreclosure, that's sort of a final action and rarely gets unwound.
So a card laid is a card played. If we billed it or paid, I probably shouldn't have given Mike my $1,000 this morning, or the $16,000 that I paid to him for property taxes. Is that right?
You didn't give me anything.
If you didn't give him the $16,000, they'd probably come looking for you at another venue, and I can't, they might send the sheriff out there.
But the PID goes away. That's what
It
you're
goes away.
saying.
The key to this, sir, is that the cloud that's over Lost Rabbit today, while there's a lot of technical issues and legal issues, the real big issue is the PID has to go away. I think everyone would agree with that. If the PID goes away, then there can be progress, and some of these things we talked about today can happen. Allstate holds the
PID has
keys
no
to the PID.
members.
Fi-
PID has no members. Everybody's volunteered to join the PID. And the PID is an $18 million debt. Until the debt is extinguished, this board cannot terminate the PID. That's just the law. So we had to come out of the way to get the bond debt extinguished in order to terminate the PID, in order to create something new. And Allstate agreed to discount an $18 million bond to $5 million, and then reissued by Urban Renewal District. But there is no PID.
Two more questions.
But there has been a hearing. Whenever I told you there's no vote yet, the Board of Supervisors hasn't voted on this. There's got to be a hearing to create the urban renewal district. There's got to be a hearing to terminate the bid. There's got to be a hearing to issue bond. So there's going to be plenty of noise and plenty of hearings and plenty of votes. Today, this is an informational briefing.
Yes, sir.
Two more questions. One, can I get an email of your presentation?
I think, Mike, you could cover it in the beginning of the meeting, or Gerald, or John Bell.
That's not your report, though, is it? He said the report, we could pay $25 and get, can I get a copy
Well,
of this
everything
presentation?
in here is part of the report.
Okay.
Uh,
Second question, do I understand it that nobody's taxes are going to go up? Whether you live in the pit or outside the pit, is that?
Not as a result of any of these actions. If the value of your home goes up just naturally, then it goes up. But the millage isn't going to be raised, and nobody's going to artificially do anything or make an assessment that would make your taxes go up.
So you're diverting taxes that are paid now?
That's
to-
correct, the 17.19 mils.
Over to Allstate?
You're paying it now, and all it does, instead of, look, for you, it's invisible. You're paying, of your 92 mills you're paying out there today, 17.19 goes to the county. The county puts it in the general fund and deals with it. What will happen now is you'll continue to pay that 17.19 mills, whatever it is. It'll come to the county through the tax collector, it'll go into the general fund, and then it'll go back out in the form of a bond repayment. You won't ever see it. It'll be no change to you. It'll be invisible to you as a homeowner. Yes, sir.
So in summary, at this point, ultimately, the DPZ plan is just as conceptual as yours, ultimately, right? I mean, DPZ was never written in that was what would happen.
The DPZ plan is the dominant plan that exists today. You know, the only thing we really modified on the DPZ plan is to take into account that since the DPZ plan was written and fostered and proffered by all the developers and architects and so forth, several legal things have happened since then. One of them is that Pearl River has issued an option to Mr. Lovelace. That's now in the Lost Rabbit plan. Whether, you know, great or ungreat, it's just in there. So we took that into account. And then the only other thing we really morphed a little bit in the plan is that there's really no demand for commercial, we said earlier, and we took the little commercial out and allocated that to single family. And I think to some chagrin, we popped a few tennis courts out and put in single family. Again, that was just our doing to maximize value. Whoever develops the area, if they think 12 tennis courts is the right answer, they have that right to do that today. All but the tennis courts just don't generate any other value today, and it might have been part of the original proposition, which it sounds like it was. All I'm saying is the original proposition has got some difficulties today.
So ultimately,
Everybody's aware of it.
your plan was simply more created for Allstate to see, to get on board that there was a way to repay this bond.
Yes.
Was it ever considered to take the original plan that DPZ did?
It's never intended to replace anybody's plan. However, I think Allstate, being the major 800-pound gorilla here, had to be comfortable that there is a plan of repayment even for a much reduced $5.2 million bond. I mean, they were at $18 million, and $18 million clearly wasn't going to get repaid, and they knew it. So they had to ask the question, what would be a normal PIT? And we came up with a number, 1% of lot value, just like Reunion. That's what they pay. Does anybody live in Reunion here? Nobody? All right, you pay 1% in Reunion. That's what we're proposing is paid at Lost Rabbit versus 10%, which is in the PIT fee now. So we had to change that. Okay? That's so we created it on paper to show them that a market-based renewal fee is doable in Madison County, and the other PIT fees are not doable. And then we had to show them that the ad valorem taxes from the 17 mills were sufficiently believable, meaning 2 lots per annum at $65,000 per lot, over a long period of time to pay the bond back. Otherwise, there's really nothing for Allstate to vote on. They just say, well, sure, come in and lowball me with a number. Who wouldn't do that? They've already had people drop by Chicago and done that, and they've not accepted it. So the county said, let's come up with a rigorous analysis, a model that is based on the market and based on a conceptual land use plan, and that's what we'll go to Allstate with. Allstate knows this is just a conceptual plan, and they know that in all probability, whoever buys this land will probably change that plan. But it shouldn't be a worry to you, because ultimately, nobody gets a plan through unless the PRB approves it. We don't have any authority to approve the plan. Yes, sir. Dave?
In your opinion, Steve, what would happen if this thing fails?
Well,
Proposals.
I think my opinion would be based on the past 5 years. And while we might like to ascribe the last 5 years of no real estate sales completely to the Great Recession, the truth of the matter is the Great Recession is over. And the real estate markets in the three-county area have returned almost to the 2006 levels. And nationally, for the top 20 SMAs, I just saw the Case-Shiller Index yesterday, are actually above the 2006 level. So the nation has already returned from the Great Recession. You know, we've got some brokers in here that may be able to tell me otherwise, but the market's pretty robust. And what's happening is the robustness in Reunion and Grayhawk and some of the other neighborhoods all around I-55 in Madison County are selling a lot of lots today, folks, a lot of demand out there today. And there is not been a lot sale other than, say, 1 or 2 here in 5 years. So my projection is based on there's a structural impediment keeping Lost Rabbit back. It has nothing to do with the original plan or the beauty of the area or how far down Hoy Road you got to drive. It is a structural impediment.
And a legal impediment.
And illegal.
You got 3 lawsuits.
You have to remove that in order to get it back to viability again. If you don't remove it, to answer your question directly, David, then you're stuck with what you got today. 5 more years of what you had the last 5 years. That's all you got.
I just want to express my appreciation to the county and all you that are involved in just moving this problem down the court, because it's been sitting there idle for 5 years, and just getting the ball moving is tremendous, and I just want to thank y'all for doing that.
Thank you, John. Thank
Do you know why,
Yes,
let me
sir.
tell you one thing. You know why there's a dock in the marina down there? They came to us and said, if you front the money, we'll put a dock in, water, electricity. I mean, because you're asking for things, we're just not getting, you know, in the past, what we.
I know that you put
So
$10,000
we put a
of
dock
slip
in, we don't get
into it.
electricity, we don't get water.
Sir, with all
Now you're
due-
asking for nothing.
I'm not
That's not our fault.
uncaring in this matter. I know that you put $10,000 a slip in there and that you have another half to pay when they finish the work. I've done the homework on it. I've talked to the people who bought them. I can't change that.
Yeah.
All we can change today are things that are within our authority and power to change in an effort to build a consensus that moves you forward. If there's something we can't change, as bad as it may be, asking me to change something I can't change, it will get us very far.
Whether somebody put a dock in or not is not the
I
county's.
put it this way, it won't happen if you do nothing. The other half of the payment will only come when somebody does do the right thing and build a dock in its completion and get the electricity and the water out there the dock that it needs. It definitely needs it. But it won't come if you do nothing here today. It won't happen because there's no funds and there's a PID and it won't happen.
Unless we have any more questions.
Just-
Wait, 2 more questions. Okay. Yes, go.
Do the 6 lawsuits go away if this deal goes through? Have you got agreement from all the parties, or is it just Allstate that's agreed to it?
We have an agreement from the plaintiffs of Robeson lawsuit, which is the main one, that the county's only involved in 1 lawsuit, Robeson. And that lawsuit is dismissed.
If this deal goes?
Yes.
And
Then
you got-
there's a contingent lawsuit, Allstate versus Bubble Snow is also dismissed. So we only involved in 1. That's the only one we can speak to.
Sure, thank you.
And then we've been asked to go to the others and sit down and tell them what the plan is. And what they do is what they do. And we're involved in 1, the main one, and that's Robeson. That goes away. Yes, sir.
Not a question as much as a request that the city be notified of any future hearings regarding Lost Rabbit.
Oh, any hearings we publicize. Okay, a hearing, that's a vote. You got to publicize in the Madison County hearing. So just keep it, you know. But probably
Hearings
March,
are
April, May.
activities, yeah.
So other than that, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think he's done a tremendous job on this. And So we are ending where we started. The county could turn its head, look away and do nothing. Or the county could try to offer a proposal. Nothing's been voted on yet. Not a board of supervisors, nothing. We're drafting the documents which constitute the framework that you've just seen now. I finished my draft. I submitted it to Allstate. Allstate Securities Division in London, their litigation division in Denver, Chicago. I'm looking at it today. I'll get it back soon. We'll bring it back, look at it for problems. If it's okay, we'll bring that before the board to be voted on sometime soon. It will not involve a land use plan. I'll just tell you what. It involves these numbers, pay back involved. So either we could look away, or we could offer a proposal to do something. It hasn't been voted on yet. So it's up to y'all. Thank you.
Thank you. Just want to be here out in the hallway. If you have any other questions, thank you.
Yeah,